This is Shaun Allen Cuts. Let's go. What I'm doing right now is I'm starting with my Slimline Pro Li and I'm bottoming out the first guideline. Next, I'm using a number 1 Walls Magic Clip cordless and I'm starting the second guideline. And I'm just flicking it out. Just working on that first guideline. Now I'm using No Guard Open Walls 5-star Seniors. And I'm just doing a flick out motion. I'm just using my wrist. And that's exactly what you need to do. Use your wrist on the first guideline. What I'm using now is a number 2. And I'm just moving the hair out the way. What I'm saying is I know that I'm cutting all the hair off. So I'm just moving it out the way so I can temp fade. Now what I'm using right now is a OA guard, my 5-star Senior black. And I'm working out that second guideline. Now I'm using my Andes Masters 1.5 guard. And I'm still working on that second guideline. I'm just using my wrist and I'm just flicking it out. I'm not going too high. I'm just working on that guideline. Now what I'm using next is a number 1 wide blade. And I'm still on that second guideline. As you can see, it's starting to disappear. But I'm using my corners. And as you can see, as I zoom close, that all them little dark spots right there, I'm just using the corner of my wide blade and I'm just flicking it out. Now what I'm doing is the same exact steps on the back of his neck. I'm using the Slimline Pros and I'm balding it out. Next, I'm using the number 1 about 1 inch. Now I'm using my 5-star Seniors. I'm taking the first guideline out. Now I'm using the number 2. And I'm just starting to work out that second guideline. Now what I'm using right now is an OA guard and I'm still working out that second guideline. Right under that number 2. What I'm doing is I'm just loosening up that second guideline. Now I'm using a 1.5 guard and I'm still working out that second guideline. I'm just using a flick out motion. What I'm saying is I'm flicking it out with my wrist. Flicking it, I'm going in and I'm flicking out. Now I'm using the number 1 right under that 1.5 and I'm just working that second guideline out. That's all I'm working on. I'm not going too high. I'm not going too low. Right where that line is, as you can see, I'm just using my corners. And I'm just looking at it and whatever dark demarcation line that's still appearing, I'm working that line out. As you can see, his hairline in the back of his neck grows differently. Left side grows left and the right side grows on the right, and then the center, it grows straight down. So what you gotta do is you gotta use the clippers in the same direction where the hair pattern grows. As you can see, I'm just turning my corners to that right side right there, and I'm just flicking it out, just being patient with it. Now I'm using my number 1 magic clips. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting the hair with the grain. With the grain means forward, not backwards. You don't want to cut people hair that have waves backwards, because you cut all the waves out and they'll be very upset with you. So what you need to do is you cut forward. Now I'm using my wide blade and I'm not digging into his hair. I'm just gradually cutting his hair, because what I'm doing is I'm taking all the little strands that's sticking up on the top of his head. This is how you get people hair to feel like nice, expensive carpet. Now it's lineup time. Now what I do is I start from the center of the forehead and I go left and right and left and right. and I look and I just keep lining it and I look to make sure both sides are even. And that's exactly what you need to do. You need to always look left and right. And every time you line up, look in the mirror, because your mirror is your best friend, because your mirror will see what your eyes don't see. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm touching up. I'm working on the corner. Because you want every single part of the hair to be absolutely sharp. Now it's time for the C effect. Using my corners, I'm drawing like a pencil. I'm just pulling the skin back. And I'm just drawing that C on the side of his head. Same way, I'm using my corners and I'm going around the ear. Now make sure that you pull the skin back and make sure that you don't go around his ear too high, because that will mess up the whole haircut. So you just make sure that you line up around the ear and go all the way down. Don't cut off all the hair on the side of his head. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm just touching up. Just touching up, taking out that first guideline still. I see a little line, so I'm just flicking it out. Make sure it's perfectly blended. Now I'm doing the same thing on the other side of his head. I'm going around his ear. I'm gonna say it again, do not line up too high around his ear. Make the haircut look really bad. Now you say you want to cut his beard. I try to